All right, so welcome to the MBAchic Founder Series. I'm Shanae Williams. I'm a reporter here at MBAchic, and I'm so excited for our first founder feature. We have Bridget O'Carroll. Hi, Bridget.
Hello. Thank you so much for
Hi.
having me today.
Absolutely. Bridget is a Wharton MBA, and she is the founder of Studio Qila, a digital fitness studio that is inspired by her Alaskan tribe. So I'm so excited to hear your story and learn more about your journey.
Excited
All
to
right.
be here.
Yes. So first, just tell us more about Studio Qila and how you came up with the idea.
Absolutely. So I have been teaching Pilates since about 2016. I grew up dancing, doing long distance running. And when I moved to DC, I was working as a consultant and essentially looking to fund my own boutique fitness habit. And I started teaching at Solid Core, which is one of those in studio Pilates with the big mega former machines. Did that for a number of years until I became a master instructor. While continuing my career, I worked as a strategy consultant. Then I was a chief of staff at Uber, and at that point, I shifted to go get my MBA, as it sounds like a lot of the audience today is also making that decision or in that decision or post. So I moved to Philadelphia to go to Wharton, and I was there for a couple of months. I missed that, having that other community, having that space that was just focused on movement, just like the stress relief that comes along with it when you're super busy trying to do all the things during business school. So I started training at SLT, which is another like national Pilates brand, also using the Megaformer. It was great to go through another training session and learn a bit of a different style. And then the week I finished training and I was on the schedule was that week we all remember in March of 2020 when the world completely shut down and we were all isolated, stuck at home. Not seeing our peers, and it got to the point where I realized my daily movement was waking up, walking to the fridge, walking to the couch, sitting down, doing my classes, and I was just feeling so sluggish. I missed that like high intensity that you get from group exercise. And I was also just feeling lonely. Like I was based in Philly, but I'd moved to DC to be with my partner because he was working he's a resident. So he was working in hospitals the whole time. So we kind of stayed there. So I couldn't really see anyone else. So at a certain point, I put on a Zoom class for like 6 of my Wharton friends. And I started developing this mat-based workout that was inspired by my experience in movement. And people were like, oh, like, let's do this again next week. And then more and more people started growing all through word of mouth. I just started like a Google Calendar and I added people on as they requested it. It was completely organic, never the plan. I started posting it on my like personal Instagram. And it got to the point where like I was teaching every week and we were having like 80 people join. It got to the point where people were like, can we do this more? Can I pay you? So it was really like I did not go to Wharton to focus on entrepreneurship. I was never the type of person that was like, oh, I'm here to be an entrepreneur. Like I've always been on this general management track and, focus on these like bigger companies. But it was so incredibly fulfilling for people to reach out and be like, I was feeling sluggish, I was feeling isolated, and this gave me an opportunity to connect with other people feeling the same way. We would always stay on afterward and just like socialize for an hour, and people sending me messages about how they felt in their bodies and how they were feeling strong and feeling confident and how that was such a big thing for them getting through the pandemic. And now it's gotten to the point where a year and a half or so in, I was teaching as Body by Bridget. Like it was like centered around me, my method, whatever. And now it's gotten to the point where I want to grow and I want to build it thoughtfully and intentionally. So we've just rebranded to Studio Qila. And Qila means spirit of the earth in Alutiiq, which is my Alaskan Native tribe, also referred to as Sukpiaq. And that has been really meaningful to me, to shift the focus from, being aesthetically focused. Like, yes, we love physical results. We love feeling strong in our bodies, but this method that I've continued to develop is beyond that. It's about pushing yourself and finding your physical strength. But in order to do that, you need to integrate that mental strength, that push, that drive, just that active thought that's really integral to my method. And I'm also just really excited to integrate my, my Alutiiq culture. I think it's so important to help to diversify the wellness space, which has really seen a lack of diversity in the past. So that's also something that I am working to leverage this platform, is increasing representation in the wellness space.
So you gave us a lot of great information and backstory. And could we back up a little bit and tell us how I know that you started off with the one Zoom call, but how did you start to grow it and get more people interested?
It was 100% through word of mouth. I just texted those 6 friends, and then I think we posted a post-class Zoom picture on Instagram, and I started getting some DMs that way. I literally just put on that Google Calendar, and I gave people access to invite their friends. But it was never my intention to try to grow this and try to get people involved. It was really just, I think, what people needed at the time. And it was, like I mentioned, literally not the plan, completely organic. And then I continued after a couple of weeks to post a little bit more on Instagram, and people could just DM me and I would get their email address and I would add them to the Google Calendar. I did do a couple events partnered with Wharton after a couple of months to include other people that didn't follow me or didn't know me. And then I saw that was working so well that I started talking to some other friends at different schools. So I had a bunch of people from Tuck join. I ended up doing a partnership with UCLA, with Kellogg. I started leaning into some hospitals. Also, a lot of my friends from undergrad are in their residency program, and they were saying, "Oh, I done your class in my days off." People started asking for recordings, so I started doing recordings, and people were sending me pictures of them and their co-residents doing class in their call rooms between patients. And it was just really cool to see this need for these people who were either stuck at home and kind of used to these high intensity workouts that wanted to find that in the home setting, or for people who were continuing to have to work through the peak of the pandemic and were finding this relief and this reset to kind of find their strength physically when they had those moments to themselves. So at a certain point,
Oh, no, I didn't want to cut you off. I was going to say that I'm hearing so many strategies. I'm hearing the social media strategy. I'm hearing about the partnerships and really kind of niching down on a market too. So you focus a lot on people who are in school. So I'm definitely hearing those strategies that people can kind of extract.
Exactly. And come June of 2020, it all became strategy because I saw this opportunity. It's we use the the term like untapped potential so often in like business school and consulting, whatever. But I was like, oh my God, this is the first time I've really actually seen untapped potential play out. Like suddenly me and a Zoom call, like I literally started this with $16, enough for a Zoom Pro membership and a Spotify account. And like, then suddenly I'm realizing, oh my God, there's so much opportunity here. So come June, after we'd grown so much with that like pure word of mouth marketing, then I realized, okay, like let's make this a business. Let's figure out a business model. I made a website. One of my friends, Louisa, helped me. And come August, we were getting a little too big to do Venmo and Google Calendar. So I found a third-party vendor, another startup that I work with that's out of San Francisco. And I created this platform that had both the live classes, so you can make an account, you can sign up for class, just like, you know, any other fitness platform. And then I also started doing my on-demand library. So creating these recordings that people can do anytime, anywhere. I was at the point a couple of months in that I had made enough money through these classes that I started leveraging that to invest back in the business. So my first big purchase was a $200 webcam. And I was like, oh my God, like this is such a big purchase. Like soon I like bought a new computer because I needed something with just like more power for my video recordings. I was watching videos to understand like how to get the lights perfected, how to get the audio high quality. I invested in like audio devices. I started, you know, purchasing these new lights, all this like new equipment. And that side of things had nothing to do with my background or my MBA. It was like, okay, I'm in YouTube school right now to figure out the actual like production of these videos. But then on the other side, I'd come from tech, I'd come from Uber, I was at Wharton. And so on the other side, it's like I knew how to figure out a strategy. I knew how to, you know, identify a good go-to-market plan. And so partnerships was a huge part of that, to find, you know, ways to scale in this way that was perfect for someone that didn't have a marketing background. Like I did strategy and operations. I did absolutely no marketing. I'm not creative. I have no branding experience. And so doing this partner strategy was really key for me to find that growth through Wharton, through UCLA, through Kellogg, through, you know, these various hospitals. And I continued to really push kind of like the grassroots feel of what we were doing. I get so many just texts from people. And so I started screenshotting those texts and just putting them on Instagram. And I think it created this feeling of kind of like FOMO, like, oh, like I want to feel like that, or oh, I missed that like post-class hang that I like posted a picture of. And we do these like silly poses and whatever for the people who stayed on after class to just hang out or talk about form or ask me questions or just socialize because we were, you know, in the middle of quarantine. So yeah, you're exactly spot on. All of these things I realized lent itself to, okay, here's this niche, here's this opportunity, here's what makes me different. Like I'm not one of those fitness instructors who are like, oh, I train models, or I am a model, or I'm training the celebrities. It's like I am training these real people who want to feel strong and want to have that connection, that community, and that strength when we are at home, we're busy, we don't have a ton of equipment, but I still want to get that feeling of, oh, I feel empowered, I feel strong, that was tough, but I did it. So yeah, I found that niche, and I've continued to push, lean into the grassroots and all of that. So yeah, it's been really exciting to turn what happened organically and something that I just enjoyed into an actual business that I'm running and I'm thinking about, and I have, you know, a team of people helping me on.
Yes, that's so exciting. So you have a team, you said?
Yeah, so I have one person that's essentially full-time-ish with me. I mean, I say full-time when I also work at Google. I do product strategy for the Google Maps team. So I feel like I kind of have two full-time jobs. But there's a woman, Louisa Cannell, who has worked with me since the beginning, but she's gotten really involved, especially with this rebrand that we've done, that we've been working on since this past June. Actually, I won the Penn Wharton Innovation Fund at school. And so that provided me with the funding I needed to invest in building out this new brand. So I brought her on, and we also brought on a number of people more in like a contractor or freelancer type role. We worked with a professional photographer. I hired someone to do the full branding refresh, who was really great. And Louisa is all my creative direction. She sources all of these contractors that we found. She has a ton of oversight over all of the creative direction. She was a huge part of my social media presence, of my website, of just like the look and feel of the brand. She's been just so incredible. And then I also have a number of people that are essentially strategic advisors for me. So Judy Yang, she's a data scientist at Facebook. She supports me a lot in community building and a lot of just like the email marketing. And we also just talk about like, okay, how do we maintain authenticity? How do we scale, but in this really thoughtful way? And then Eliza Weiss has also been a great strategic advisor. She was the first employee at Away, and she's been really great at advising things like brand partnerships, overall strategy. We had like a 4-hour like strategy session the other day on where, like, kind of what we're talking about, like, where am I playing? How do we win? What is going to help us grow this, but in this really thoughtful way? We don't want to just partner left and right and do a bunch of merchandise. I want to be like really thoughtful and make sure it is all kind of adding up to our North Star, what we're actually trying to achieve.
And that's been so exciting to have people now working for you and helping to bring that vision to life. And it's also great that you're open to that, because I know sometimes with entrepreneurs, they'll say, okay, this is my baby, and they're kind of hesitant to let people help them grow it. So just tell me a little bit about that process.
I'm so open to it. I get so excited when people want to talk about it, because it's what's always on my mind. If someone wants to talk about it, I'm like, oh my God, let's put on a meeting right now. Let's keep talking about it. Like, even one of my clients, Justine, I realized she's a designer, and I was like, oh my God, like I need to talk to you about these things. And she was giving me all these ideas of what she'd like to see for merchandise. And it's just so fun when it's largely clients that turn into, you know, teammates or colleagues or freelancers or whatever it is, because they're bought in and they're excited. And so it's just been so fun to do these, you know, one-off projects, or just these conversations that's so helpful. Or like one of my other friends who's been a journalist and is getting her PhD now and has nothing to do with wellness, but she got on the phone with me for an hour to talk through, this is how you reach out to PR companies or different media platforms. Like, she's helping me draft up the emails, like anyone that is excited and wants to help. It's been so amazing. And being a founder is lonely. Like, it is very lonely when it's just you working on your business, and, you know, the things that keep you up at night are different when you are owning something. And so to have other people who are willing to dedicate some of their expertise, their time, it's extremely fulfilling. And it's just so amazing to see that happen.
Absolutely. And so you are, like you said, you have 2 full-times, and you started this when you were, you know, earning your MBA. So can you talk to me about like work-life integration or work-life balance, or how you're able to kind of do it all and not get burnt out? Because this is like a wellness company, so I'm sure that that's important to you.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely is. It's all about prioritization. I think when I was at Wharton, there were definitely a lot of things I missed out on. Like one thing, I was in DC when a lot of people were able to stay in Philly through COVID, or at least the peak of it. So I had a lot of FOMO. Like there were a lot of things I was like, oh man, I wish I was there. But it also allowed me to focus, and I was able to connect with my peers at school through these classes. So I was actually able to expand my social group pretty significantly and meet all these people that I didn't know otherwise. So it was really about prioritization, realizing I don't want to be involved in every single club. I don't want to go for the leadership position and everything. Like I was very thoughtful and cognizant of where I was putting my time. So I was involved in Storytellers Club, which is just something that I got a lot of fulfillment from, and it's something that helped me, like being able to help other people tell their stories and get vulnerable, I think helped me be able to now like rebrand into something that's like deeply personal to me. And then I was also the inaugural VP of Wellness for the Wharton School, which just overlapped with what I was already doing and what I had a passion for, and also allowed me to do more partnerships because I had those contacts with Wharton administration. And then post school, because I won the Penn Wharton Innovation Fund, I ended up just taking the summer off just to work on Studio Qila and the rebrand. So I pushed my Google start date as late as possible until mid-August, and I tried my best to work on the rebrand as much as possible, but we were moving. It was honestly, it's easier for me to stay focused and stay structured when I'm busier for some reason. So I started at Google mid-August, and maybe it's just like the type A in me. Once I'm busy, I'm like, okay, got to be really thoughtful about my time, about where this is going. I essentially work West Coast hours, but I'm based on the East Coast. So that helps me have a little time in the morning to focus on this. Weekends, evenings, and it's different because I own it, and there's something so motivating about that. So ahead of the rebrand, I was working like very late, and my partner would get home, and I think, okay, I just need to finish this. I kind of blink, and it's like 5 hours have gone by, and I'm like, ooh, I finished it. So I think there's definitely part obsession when it comes to these things, or just like this hyper focus because I am so fulfilled by it. But yeah, it's definitely about, for me, finding the things that really drive me and that I'm excited about, to the point where I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna think about it, and I'll take the time I need. We had a wedding with my partner's like extended family, so I just took the whole weekend off to try to be present there. And it's like scoping out those times for me when I need to reset. If I just need to like watch TV and eat some candy, like that's happened a number of nights in the past month. And sometimes it's okay to just take that time and then tap back into it the next day or a couple days later. But yes, absolutely. Taking time to rest, taking time to recover in fitness, as well as just like in work life, is very key and very important to me.
Absolutely. And we're filming this in November, which is Indigenous Heritage Month, and you're an Alaskan Native, and it's really beautiful to see how you have kind of infused your culture into your brand. And so can you tell me about that and why it was important for you to incorporate that into Studio Qila?
Yeah, I was actually just on a panel yesterday at Google for Native American Heritage Month, and just like raising awareness. It's interesting because Native Americans, Indigenous people, like much of what we are fighting for is truly just acknowledgement, awareness, representation. I remember a couple months ago, there was a model, Kwana Rose, who went to the Met Gala in some native turquoise jewelry. And she got a little bit of press initially, and there was something about that was so impactful for me to see someone like me. She also is Alaskan Native, someone like me represented in something mainstream. And that's something that I so rarely see. I was talking on the panel yesterday how like oftentimes the only places Native Americans are represented are as mascots, like the same as like an animal might be. And it's like, it's very hurtful to see that is the place where, you know, is the only place we're getting acknowledgement. It's definitely like difficult to be like, okay, I'm gonna integrate my culture into this and serve as representation to make other natives feel more of a sense of belonging, of acceptance, of the fact that, you know, there's other people like them out there, and for non-natives to serve as representation, to say we are still here, we exist, we could be, you know, part of this like mainstream society. But it's been definitely hard to you know, especially as I look for PR and media to see, oh, I expected so many roundups of like Native-owned businesses or Native-owned products, and there's so few out there. It's been pretty saddening to see, but makes me realize that this is even more important to highlight this as who I am, who my business is, and leverage this platform to uplift other Indigenous voices, or Black, Indigenous, any people of color. It's just really important for me to integrate that into what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And I see that you have, you know, scholarships and you have other partnerships to really continue to promote that. Again, that's amazing to see. And can you talk a little bit about just being in your MBA program and being at, you know, a big company like Google and Uber, and just being Native in those spaces? What has that been like for you?
So people from Wharton, I don't know, maybe someone will remember, at some point we have a Slack group that's like, you know, Wharton-wide, both classes. I messaged the general chat, and, you know, a couple thousand people on that. And I was like looking for other natives at Wharton. And I found one other person in those like entirety of Wharton. There was one other person that I found. And I'm like, wow, that's depressing. From my recruitment, I went to all the diversity, equity, and inclusion events across all the schools that I was applying to or got into. And like those events are just so nice because like so many people not only have similar backgrounds from being like minorities or whatever it is, but also it's so connected to socioeconomic position. So to connect with other people who had a lot of the same concerns as me, being like, yeah, I've been supporting my family, and so it's I feel guilty in a lot of ways, just like going to an MBA program where I'm not going to have the income to support them, where I'm, you know, investing like all this money and like I took 100% out in debt. So to be able to connect on the side of, you know, wanting to feel belonging, maybe feeling a little bit different, of like, you know, fighting for, you know, various equality or equity pieces, but then the other side, it's like, oh, this is where I really found a lot of my people who just like got it. But then once I got to Wharton, I was like, okay, diversity, equity, inclusion, there's like been so many events, they were so fulfilling. And then I got there and I was like, oh, I don't fit in anywhere. There's no group for me to join. There's natives at Penn, but there's who I like kind of reached out to a couple times, but there's no like Wharton connection there. And so that was really disappointing. And it honestly felt like a little superficial that I had all these things to go to, but then I wasn't really able to find like much. I didn't find a place where I felt like I truly belonged in terms of being Native, of being Indigenous. And so I really hope that there's more focus on recruitment there, as well as across all the schools, recruitment there, as well as, okay, now that you're here, here's how we're going to continue to support you. At Google, actually, it is the first place I've worked that actually has a Aboriginal and Indigenous network. So we have our own affinity group. And for Native American Heritage Month, I've gone to some events. The first one I went to, it was 80 people. I was like, oh my God, this is great. Like, this is more than I thought. And then we broke out into breakout rooms and to kind of like talk about their background and their heritage and their culture. And I was actually the only person that was Native American. Everyone else was attending as an ally, but like that was honestly fine. I was just excited that other people were curious, were asking questions, were showing up. Same thing on a panel yesterday. There were two panelists. There were two people who were kind of like talking about being Indigenous and what that meant, and that's okay. Like it matters that we are starting to talk about it, that we're raising awareness, that there's recognition, and that people who are not Native, they're asking the questions, they're showing support, they're showing curiosity, and that is already a massive step. It's a first step, but it's a massive step to making Native American people in the US feel like they belong and feel like they're okay to talk about it. With a history of, that culture being like wiped out, pushed aside, it feels really nice to start having a little bit of recognition, and I really hope to see it continue to grow, and I really hope that's something I can have an impact on.
And you absolutely are, using your platform, and that's amazing. And so is that part of the reason why you wanted to rebrand Studio Qila, to bring more awareness?
Absolutely. So Qila means spirit of the earth in Alutiiq, and all of the Native languages, like there's lots of Native languages, there's lots of different tribes. Basically, every tribe is its own nation, and there's lots of languages connected with that, and most of those languages are really being forgotten. And so to be able to bring, a word that could be lost into my brand, and to bring my face and say, we're Native owned, we're Indigenous owned, I am a Native woman, and I am working to uplift other Black and Indigenous people, is something that I would have loved to see in terms of representation. And yes, that is exactly right. Why I want to integrate that into something that's more mainstream. We're a wellness company, and we can be Native owned. It doesn't need to be something that it's like, okay, this is an educational platform about these cultures. It's like, we can bring this into the mainstream, and it can be something that we can just see in our everyday life and our everyday activities, and something that we should all do just to like work to diversify like what we are surrounding with ourselves with, like what we are, spending our money on. So I also didn't mention that through kind of like my research and, this integration of, being a Native owned company, is I found out, are the first Native owned digital fitness studio, which is amazing. I'm like, great, we're making history. In some ways it's sad, because I'm like, no, like this is the first one, like it hasn't happened yet, but
right, in 2021, yeah.
Yes, but really exciting that we can make that impact, and we can start to grow this representation in the business world and in the wellness space.
And I know it's lonely to pave the way, but it's got to feel incredible to leave that legacy, Yes. And can you just tell me a little bit, or give us some advice for people who are starting a business? They are, whether they're women, people of color, just in general, like your advice from starting this from the ground up.
Absolutely. So I have taken a strategy that I think not a lot of MBAs or Wharton MBAs take, in that I haven't really spent anything that I haven't already made. So that was a way for me, as someone that doesn't have something to fall back on, except now that I am obviously working again, to do it in a low risk way that is proving the opportunity as I go. So I didn't really, I mean, this rebrand was a bigger bet than I'm used to taking, and it was a little scary. But to be able to start small, to prove your concept and build it as you continue to prove yourself in the market and build traction has been really key to growing this business for me. I know another tactic is to kind of like raise a bunch of money and create something that's big and beautiful and well branded and whatever it is. That is what I think I often see in the MBA, post MBA space, or in the MBA space. But just a reminder that that is not the way you need to go. You don't need to necessarily get a bunch of access to funds in order to start something. You can start small and you can refine as you are literally in the market and operating. And as people are kind of hesitant to start something or not totally sure, or like have all these ideas, just go do it, try it, see what happens, and you'll be able to get that immediate feedback and make those adjustments where you need to make them.
So what's the vision for Studio Qila moving forward? What's the grand scheme of things for you?
Yes, we will always be primarily digital, because having that accessibility and that access is really important for me. Accessibility and inclusion is something I always really try to integrate into both my method itself as well as my business model. So like you mentioned, I have scholarships, I have a bunch of pricing options. And there's just something about like being able to connect and get this, something in for yourself when you don't have a ton of time. And that's like my key client that I want to serve. But eventually, we're registered in Austin, and that's where I'll be relocating come July. And eventually we will have an in-person studio. I imagine that is where we will do filming from. We'll have special in-person classes. I see me partnering with other brands, and especially focused on Black and indigenous-owned brands, to kind of create this feeling of wellness. Like I do miss like walking into studios sometimes and be like, oh, this has all the things I like and enjoy and I'm relaxed, and here's all my products. So I want to do that really thoughtfully and intentionally. I don't want to just be another fitness company like partnering with a skincare company, whatever. Like, I want to do it intentionally. I want it to be something where you feel good in yourself about going there, either in person or digitally, and you feel like you're investing in something that's thoughtful, that's good for the world, good for the communities. So I see myself maybe expanding more into broader wellness, but always the core of what we do is going to be this high intensity, low impact workout that makes you feel strong and makes you feel empowered mentally and physically. But eventually we will just continue to grow and expand and work to reach more people and work to have more of an impact on our broader communities.
And you have 3 membership tiers, right? For people who are interested in classes.
Yes, exactly. We have on demand, so you have access to 100 on demand videos, and I add an additional 3 or 4 each week, ranging from 10 minutes to 45 minutes. And then I have the monthly plus, which is our newest membership, and it's for people who want the flexibility of the on demand, do it whenever you can fit it in, but then also want to check in. 4 live classes a month are included, so you can have some of that personal attention, that form guidance, and just have a little bit more of that accountability and community feel. And then our last one is our all access membership. So you have access to all the on-demand library as well as all live classes, which we do about 15 per month, which is my favorite because I get to actually see people's faces.
Absolutely. And where can people learn more information and sign up?
At studioqila.com, and Qila is Qila.
Awesome. Any final words? Anything else you want to add?
If anyone needs a scholarship, if pricing is going to be a blocker between you and getting your movement, absolutely reach out. No questions asked. I'm looking to partner with some other organizations to be able to offer some scholarships at greater scale. So if that's something you're interested in helping me work on, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bridget, for sharing your story. I did take the class yesterday, and it was great. I mean, it's a lot. It was the core workout, the lower body, so it was a lot. So it's definitely a good workout. Again, thank you. And thank you for watching our founder series here at MBAchic. You can find more at MBAchic.com. And until next time, I'm Shanae Williams. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.